You know, what gets me every single time, it's when official government agencies start sending out quiet little emails that nobody's really paying attention to. And I'm telling you right now, the US Mint just sent one out, and if you understand what it actually means, you're gonna want to hear what happened when I walked into my local coin shop yesterday, because what I saw there wasn't just busy, it was absolute chaos. And here's the thing, I've been watching silver for years now, and I'm starting to see patterns that most people completely miss because they're too busy staring at spot prices on their phones instead of actually going out and talking to real dealers and real buyers who are putting real money down right now. So I'm standing outside this coin shop, right? And there's a line, like an actual line of people wrapped around the corner like they're waiting for concert tickets so the new iPhone drop. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, this is either panic or opportunity, maybe both. So I get inside and immediately I'm hit with this energy. People are talking over each other, dealers are moving fast, phones are ringing nonstop, and everyone's asking the same question in different ways. They're saying things like, is it too late? Did I miss it? Should I wait for a dip? And honestly, that question right there tells me everything I need to know about where we actually are in this market. Because when people are scared they missed the boat, that usually means we're just leaving the dock, not approaching the shore. But here's where it gets really interesting. I started asking people why they were buying today, not why they like silver in general, but why today, why now, why at these prices. And one guy, older gentleman, probably retired, looked me dead in the eye and said something I'll never forget. He said, I actually like it when the price goes up because it makes me feel like I made the right choice. And that hit me because he wasn't treating this like a trade, he was treating it like validation, like emotional security. And that's when I realized most people aren't buying silver because they're trying to flip it next week. They're buying it because everything else feels unstable and silver feels real. So I asked the room another question. I said, who here is actually upset that silver prices are higher right now? And you know what happened? Almost every hand went up. But here's the kicker. Every single one of those people was still standing in line to buy. They weren't leaving, they were complaining and purchasing at the same time. And that's not what happens at a market top. At a real top, people walk away. They say, forget this, I'm out. But these people were saying, I wish it was cheaper, while literally pulling out their wallets. That's demand, raw, unfiltered demand that doesn't care what the chart says. Now, while I'm watching all this unfold, I noticed something else that made me pause. People weren't buying the cute little 1-ounce rounds with fancy designs anymore. They were going straight for the heavy stuff, the thick bars, the 10-ounce pieces, the kilogram bricks, the kind of silver that makes your bag feel like you're carrying dumbbells. And when people start buying weight over artwork, that tells me they're not shopping for collectibles. They're building a position. They're thinking long-term. They're protecting something. And that shift in behavior matters more than any headline you'll read this week. But then the dealer pulls me aside, and this is where everything changes. He shows me an email on his phone, official email, straight from the US Mint, and it says certain products are being repriced, some online ordering is temporarily paused, and availability is extremely limited. And my first thought was, okay, they don't send emails like this unless something's actually wrong behind the scenes. This isn't a marketing email, this isn't a promotional update, this is damage control. And the dealer looks at me and says, notice what they're not pulling. And I look at the list, and sure enough, the one thing still available, still moving, still in stock is the basic flagship American Silver Eagle, the standard issue bullion coin that everyone recognizes. And that's your tell right there. See, when mints start repricing products and pausing sales, it's not because they're going out of business, it's because the old prices don't work anymore. The margins disappeared, the costs went up, and they can't keep selling at a loss. So they hit pause, adjust, and restart. But if they ever stopped making that flagship coin altogether, that's when you know it's not a pricing issue anymore. That's a supply chain crisis. And we're not there yet, but we're closer than most people think. And I want you to remember that because it's going to matter in about 3 months when everyone starts panicking and asking what happened. Now here's what most people get wrong about spot price. They think the number they see on their screen is the real price, but it's not. not. Spot price is just the price of paper contracts trading back and forth between institutions who probably never touch an actual ounce of silver in their entire careers. The real price, the price that actually matters to you and me, is what you pay when you walk into a shop or order online, and that price includes premiums. And right now, those premiums are telling a very different story than the spot price. They're high, they're staying high, and they're not coming down even when spot dips a little bit. And you know what that means? It means physical silver is tight. Dealers are competing for inventory, and buyers are paying whatever it takes to secure metal. And the dealer explained this to me in the simplest terms. He said, when I can't get product at the price I used to, I either raise my prices or I close my doors. And that's the reality of physical markets that futures traders will never understand. But wait, it gets better. I talked to this younger guy, maybe mid-20s, and he told me he started stacking silver when he was 17. And I asked him what he thought about current prices, and without hesitation, he said, not enough. And I laughed because I thought he was joking, but he wasn't. He explained that silver gets used up in industry, in solar panels, in electronics, in medical equipment. It gets consumed and it doesn't come back, unlike gold, which just sits in a vault somewhere looking pretty. And then he dropped this bomb on me. He said he's been convincing his friends and coworkers to start buying, not because he's trying to pump the price, but because he genuinely believes they're gonna need it. And that's how real demand spreads, not through some viral TikTok or news segment, but through person-to-person conviction, one conversation at a time. So I'm processing all of this, and the dealer tells me something that honestly blew my mind. He said some wholesalers are actually melting down finished silver products right now, taking perfectly good coins and rounds and bars and turning them back into raw material so they can recast them into whatever's moving fastest. And at first I thought, that sounds insane. Why would you destroy a finished product? But then it made perfect sense. If you're sitting on inventory that's not selling because premiums are too high, or designs are too niche, but you know generic rounds are flying off the shelf, you melt it down and convert it. You turn slow inventory into fast inventory. And when that starts happening on a large scale, product variety disappears. The fun collectible stuff vanishes, and all that's left is the boring standard bullion, which, by the way, is exactly what we're starting to see right now. And that's not a coincidence, that's a signal. And here's another thing I noticed while talking to people in that shop. The new buyers weren't asking beginner questions anymore. They weren't asking, is this real? They weren't asking, where should I store it? They were asking, how much can I buy right now? And that's a different energy. That's urgency. That's fear of missing out. And while I understand that feeling, I also know that urgency without a plan is just panic in disguise. And panic makes you pay too much, buy the wrong products, and sell at the worst possible time. So before you run out and drain your bank account, ask yourself, do you have a strategy? Do you know what you're buying and why? Do you know what you'll do if prices drop or if products become unavailable? Because without that clarity, you're just gambling with extra steps. Now look, I'm not here to tell you silver's going to the moon tomorrow or the dollar's collapsing next week. I don't know the future, and neither does anyone else. But what I do know is this: when official mints start repricing products, when premiums stay elevated despite spot price fluctuations, when local coin shops have lines out the door, when dealers are melting finished products to meet demand, and when young people are convincing their friends to start stacking, those aren't random events. Those are pressure points, and pressure points eventually crack. The real question isn't if silver is expensive. The real question is whether your currency is losing value. And I think deep down you already know the answer to that. You feel it every time you buy groceries, every time you fill up your tank, every time you look at your rent or mortgage statement. And that feeling, that creeping sense that something's off, is what's driving people into that coin shop. Not greed, not hype, just the quiet realization that holding paper might not be the safest bet anymore. So here's what I'm watching going forward. 3 things. First, does the mint's availability actually normalize, or does this shortage drag on for months? Second, do premiums stay elevated even if spot prices bounce around? And third, do those lines at local coin shops keep growing, or do they disappear? Because if all 3 of those signals stay strong, then we're not looking at a temporary spike, we're looking at a structural shift. And shifts like that don't reverse quickly. They build momentum, and by
the time everyone recognizes it, the easy entry point is long gone. The mint isn't collapsing, but it is transitioning, and transitions are messy. They create confusion, delays, and mistakes create opportunities, but only if you're paying attention, only if you're talking to real dealers, visiting real shops, and watching real supply instead of just refreshing a price chart on your phone. Because I'm telling you, the truth isn't on your screen. The truth is in the friction, the delays, the repricing emails, the long lines, and the quiet conversations happening in coin shops across the country right now. And if you're not plugged into that, you're flying blind. So get out there, talk to dealers, ask questions, and build your plan. Because whatever's coming next, it's not going to wait for you to be ready.